Well, it's March 2nd. We're heading up for the first trip of the year. Max just finished up the boat, so we're heading up bow fishing. Got the new boat out, well, newish boat. It's a 2072. It's got a 90 horse on the back. It's got the 112 for the trolling motor. We got four 200s up front. It's got 6 100s down the side, 9-foot deck. I mean, it's gonna be a really nice boat. So we're going up for a test run. Got to figure out how to get the camera mount working right, which settings we got to use. So I don't know. We'll see. But either way, first trip out of the year, and I'm ready to shoot some fish. So let's see what happens. BB Outdoors is brought to you in part by Loxley Bowfishing, home of the Graves Bowfishing Gloves. The quick-drying, breathable material has a reinforced pinky to protect your hands when pulling arrows. This makes it a must-have for any bow fisherman. Get yours today at LoxleyBowfishing.com. Use promo code BB15 for 15% off at checkout. Arrow Out. Whether you're bow fishing deeper water or cattails, the Arrow Out is an essential part of every bow fishing boat. When an arrow is stuck or your line snaps, Arrow Out is here to help you get your arrow back. For more information, check out meritproducts.com. We will be doing a giveaway of an Arrow Out XT at 1,000 subscribers. Predator Custom Bowstrings. Over 30 years of experience building bowstrings for compound, recurve, and crossbows. We use premium BCY products to build your next set of premium strings and cables. Find them on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to use promo code BB15 to get 15% off of your next set of strings. Well, it's the first trip of the year, and boy, oh boy, was I excited. So you got me in the jersey. You got Adam that just pulled up the other fish inside the vest. Right there's Knox, he just shot one, and then the other one is Max. So what's cool about this group is I've only shot with Knox and Max one time, and that was at Worlds last year. So we had a blast shooting together last year. We figured we'll shoot again. Max can basically build. I mean, Max built basically all the deck, everything else. He's been doing a really good job on building boats recently. Knox is a great guy to be able to shoot with. I mean, just awesome hangout. You know, the guy will do, you ask him to do something, he'll do it. I mean, just an all-around outdoorsman. Kill some really nice bucks, too. But then after that, you got Adam. So, Adam, I've shot against Adam for years now. We used to shoot the Bowfishing Association of Michigan back when I shot it. I believe he still does. But we shot against each other for years, and this is actually our first night shooting together. So that was a pretty cool thing to be able to do now that I'm basically retired from a lot of the tournaments. So we just went out and decided to have a little bit of fun. We know early season, this spot's usually got a lot of dogfish into it, and, you know, it really just didn't disappoint. So the spot that we're shooting here is just one giant backwater. It's got a whole bunch of good habitat. It's got a lot of muddy bottom, dead frag, things like that. And the dogfish were really, really pushed up shallow. A lot of the times the trolling motor would end up hitting the bottom before we really fully got to the fish. I was actually really impressed with the boat. This was my first time actually taking the boat out for a legit nighttime bow fishing trip. And, you know, it's a 2072. It's a heavier haul, but it's one of the things of, you know, it's not the haul that really, you know, hampered us getting into the shallows, as a lot of it was the trolling motor. So she drafts in really, you know, shallow water. So I was pretty impressed with how the boat ended up running. But a lot of these fish were, like I said, they were pushed up in really, really shallow water, shooting them in, you know, 6-8 inches of water. But they were there. It was one of the things where we could run the frag line and things like that and get right into the fish. It's just a matter of seeing them. We had a little bit of dirty water, and we got right into them. Just kept shooting. And that's what's cool about shooting with people who, you know, they're familiar with everything. They know what they're doing. You can see, you know, when somebody gets a fish, we transfer spots extremely well. Even though that we're not used to shooting with each other, and, you know, somebody might like shooting like this or like that, but, you know, it's just something we vibed really, really well. Just something that's kind of universal, you know. Shoot the fish, you go to the back of the boat, you keep going. Somebody hops on the troller, you keep going. And luckily, with the fish being there, we were, you know, putting them in the boat as fast as we can. I ended up bringing 6 30-gallon drums on this trip, and we ended up filling them in the first 2.5 hours. All dogfish and a couple goldfish here or there, and, I think we only shot 2 carp this night. So it was kind of one of the things of, you stack them that thick with dogfish, and you can throw, 50, 60 dogfish inside of a 30-gallon drum, which is kind of funny because of the fact that I spent about 2-3 hours the day before and the day of actually drilling out these barrels, putting handles on them and things like that. So that way I figured if we actually got into them and, shot 600-700 fish or something, that we would have to unload, and we needed to make sure we could unload as fast as we can. But what I didn't take into account is the fact that dogfish stack so extremely well that usually, we've shot tournaments before. A lot of people use trash cans, things like that. You can, lift up and dump a trash can if it's carp or, something like that. But how well these dogfish stack, them barrels are heavy. It took 2-3 guys to pick up them barrels when they were full to dump them inside the 110. So kind of everything worked out, but it was also one of the things where, different species would have been better. Maybe next time we'll actually not fill them to the brim before we try to unload, or try to unload a couple of them first. But, it all worked out pretty well. We ended up taking, a lot of people who's bowfish will know this, but if you ever use a 110 or anything else like that, it could take 30 minutes to unload fish. And then by the time you hand unload that many fish out of the 110, it takes forever, and you just kind of lose, that mojo in fishing. But, with them barrels, it took a little bit of manpower, but we got them in fast enough to get right back out and get back on the fish. So everything kind of worked out. Now for the camera that I'm using, I ended up picking up a GoPro off of the old Amazon, and, I really wanted to be able to film the bow fishing aspect, shoot as many fish as I can, stuff like that, without having to have a designated camera guy. With the amount of times, you're shooting, you're moving around, with all the fish that we have in the area, it's kind of hard to have a designated camera guy to keep up with everything. So the way I wanted to do it was I wanted to have a camera sitting up on a pole, and maybe I'll take a picture or do a video on that if you guys are interested. Got about a 9-10 foot long pole with the GoPro sitting on the top, and it ended up working extremely well. I ended up changing the settings after we unload here in a couple minutes, and when I changed the settings, I kind of like the second part of the video a little bit better with the settings changed. I made the screen a little bit wider, but everything kind of worked out the way that it was. You still got to see a lot of the shooting. Still got to see all the movement, stuff like that, throwing fish in the boat. But I didn't want to give up any of my spots if we're going to end up shooting one of our good spots. So, luckily, this wasn't one of my spots. But, it's just something I want to, keep that protected. And kind of like the video like this, the only thing that you get to see is the fact that, we're by frag, and you only get to see where the lights are. So we're not showing much of a background. We can still protect our areas. That's one of the things I'm really nervous about. I can show you there's a lot of people. So I've shot Saginaw Bay basically my entire life. So I've been shooting Saginaw Bay for, this year will be 26 years now. So, it's one of the things that if somebody shows a launch, shows background or anything else like that, is I know that body of water so well that I can tell you where they're at, where they're scouting, where they're shooting. I mean, there's a lot of information that gets given out on YouTube and Facebook through pictures and media that ruins a lot of really good spots. And like I said, this is one of the things of, this isn't one of my spots, so I don't want to ruin somebody else's spot just as much as I don't want to ruin one of my spots. So we're getting pretty close now to having to go unload. I know that I've got a lot of these just as, shooting, throwing fish in the boat clips. But what's end up happening is that the boat can handle, it's got 30-inch sides. The boat can handle having the weight in the boat, but after we got about 150 gallons of fish in the boat, we ended up not being able to go nearly as shallow to be able to get back up into where the fish were located. So It wasn't really a boat performance thing, but it's just that the fish were absolutely so shallow that we had to go unload. Which is honestly kind of funny and crazy because of the fact that if you really think about it, this is March 2nd. So March 2nd, it's extremely cold out. It's cold weather, cold water, but it's one of the things where ice just got off the lake, couple weeks prior, and I think that one of the early season things is it kind of throws fish into a little bit of a shock and has them to be able to come up into the shallows earlier for feeding. This being a muddy bottom, you see the trolling motor just kicked up mud right there. With this being a muddy bottom, it kind of warms up a lot faster than what everything else does, so it kind of pushes them fish into the shallows more with that being able to get warmer faster. And it's just all around just a really good place to be able to hold fish. And I mean, obviously, as you can see from the video, it's got the fish on there. So we finally got back to the launch. We ended up unloading. Ended up filling the full 110 and, one of the little trash cans that we had, the 30-gallon trash cans. But while we were doing that, I ended up changing the settings on the camera. And for me personally, I prefer to see this view a little bit better. You can see everybody on the boat. You can kind of see a little bit more of the frag line, things like this. It's not really as well defined to be able to see the fish, but you can kind of get more of an idea of what's going on, especially with everything going around, on around us, and, get a little bit more of the movement. So I think what I'm going to end up doing in the future is I think I'm going to stick with this setting for the rest of the videos and see how it goes throughout the year. And if I have to change, I have to change. But for me personally, I really like the way that this is. What was absolutely crazy about the whole thing is, like I said, we filled up the boat. We filled up all 6 of them barrels, them 30-gallon barrels, in 2.5 hours. When I actually looked at the video when we started to, shoot the fish to go back to unload the fish, we unloaded the fish. It got dark at 7 something. We unloaded the fish before 10 o'clock, or right around 10. So, I mean, we put a hammering on them in a hurry. But it's one of the things, though, is that after we went and unloaded, we went back out, and for some odd reason, I've never seen this before, but the dogfish actually shut off. Usually a lot of the times when you're out shooting dogfish, they'll I call them respawning, basically, but, you can pressure them fish for a good, hour, 2 hours or so, but leave for 15 minutes and come back, and the fish will be right straight back. But that just wasn't the case with this one. Is we ended up doing, 2 loops around the area that we passed to shoot the first 250, and the fish just weren't there. Definitely not as thick as what they were. So we ended up going out and exploring a little bit more, hoping that we can get into, a couple fish in a little bit of a different area. But they were just pushed back in that one area, and with the numbers, the fish depleting, it was kind of one of the things of, what do we do? Do we keep shooting? Do we try to move to a different spot? Or, what do you do at that point? Tournament reason-wise, you don't leave fish to find fish, but we weren't shooting a tournament, and it honestly got so bad to the point where we just weren't on fish anymore. Well, after we lost all the fish, we decided to go back to the dock and, ended up calling it a night. Adam ended up going back to where he's able to dump fish and ended up counting out, and we got 335. So, can't really complain. It's March 2nd. It's brand new, first shoot of the year, and we end up shooting a pile of fish, especially so fast. So can't really complain. Even with going, 6 months of not shooting a fish, aim's still on, everything's still there. So really looking forward to the rest of the year. But if you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. I got a lot more videos coming for you, so stay tuned.